Kia ora and welcome to a new video from NZ Pocket Guide. Today I'm going to go through everything you need to know before staying in hostels in New Zealand. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so if you're planning on staying in backpacker hostels in New Zealand, the first thing that you need to know is that if you're planning to travel to New Zealand in January, February or March, or if you're planning on traveling in a specific city during a festival or a rugby game, you absolutely need to book early. I cannot stress that enough, but hostels are an accommodation of choice for locals, and so if there is any event, or if it is the summer holiday, or if it is a public holiday in New Zealand, they tend to get booked really quickly. So book early if you're planning on traveling at any of those times. Another great thing to know about backpacker hostels in New Zealand is that pretty much all of them offer private rooms. And the great thing about private rooms in hostels in New Zealand is that, well, you get the same privacy than a hotel or a motel, but on top of it, you get to use all the facilities of said hostels. So you are able to use both the laundry rooms as well as the kitchen, for instance, where you'll be able to cook epic meals and save a lot of money on food when planning your trip. You know, it can get quite expensive to eat out for breakfast, lunch and dinner for your entire trip. Speaking of the kitchen, hanging out in a kitchen is a great way to meet people. So if you are a solo traveler in New Zealand and you want to make some friends, just hang out by the kitchen, you know, cook a meal for a few people, just exchange salt, exchange a few chit chat, and that's the best way to make friends and maybe find somebody to join in on your next hike for the next few days. Next up on our list, we're going to stick to the kitchen, and you have to make sure to label your food very well. It is commonly known that in hostel in New Zealand, you've got to put your name as well as your room number as well as your checkout date on the label of the food, because the hostel staff regularly goes through the kitchen and gets rid of a lot of the food. There is, you know, either mislabeled or that looks like it is expired, because, you know, otherwise old food accumulates very quickly in hostels kitchens. So just make sure that you do that, and usually labels and pens are provided in the hostel's kitchen. Next up on our list, we have the fact that if you're traveling in New Zealand as a family, one great tip is to stay in hostels and actually rent a whole dorm. So, you know, you can have like a 4-bunk bed dorm, for instance, and you can rent that all together, and that can save you a lot of money compared to other accommodation. Plus, you will be able to use the kitchen, so if any of your family members have some specific dietary requirements, you can cater to them quite easily. So that's worth keeping that in mind when planning a family trip to New Zealand. Okay, so next up we have, well, the use of the facilities at the busy hour. So it is quite common that, you know, between 7 and 10 is usually a busy time for the bathroom to be used in hostels if you are staying in a dorm that is using shared bathroom, because not all of them do. Same for the kitchen, you know, it's gonna get quite busy around, you know, dinner time, for instance. So do be aware of that and try to plan around so you are able to use the facilities of the hostels at a more convenient time for yourself. And finally, make sure to look for all the free perks which are included in a lot of hostel stay. A lot of them will have free bike rental, free kayak, sometimes free breakfast, and much more. There's a lot of different things that you can get out of staying in hostels. Yes, they're not going to be the best bikes ever, but free bike rental is always pretty good. That can save you $50 a pop quite easily, so keep that in mind. Alright, so there's much more for you on nzpocketguide.com. Seriously, we talk about hostel a lot, and the whole team is joining me to wish you the best time ever in New Zealand. Have a good one.